Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast number 227, recorded live on a beautiful, rainy winter night, December 15th, 2014. I am your host and the runner-up for Miss World 2014, Todd Klindt. And you've all probably noticed I was gone last week, and I got more about that later. But I was down at Rackspace, down at the home office, down at the castle, as we affectionately refer to it, talking about all kinds of fun things down there. But one of the things that I have to tell you about is SharePoint.rackspace.com, talking about what we're going to be doing with that. So go out to SharePoint.rackspace.com. All kinds of great things about what we do at Rackspace for SharePoint, and we've got training videos and white papers and all kinds of fun things like that. So go out to SharePoint.rackspace.com, jump on the chat, tell them Todd sent you, and they'll all be like, oh, that goober, and it'll be big fun. Everybody have a blast. SharePoint.rackspace.com. For our production notes, first I would like to formally, humbly apologize for forcing you guys to sit through another one of Shane's sessions. Again, I was on the road last week and actually had an event going on Monday night. I've done this thing on the road before, and it's tolerable, it's doable. Probably, and I haven't done it since I switched to Google Hangouts, so it's probably even easier now. But had something going on that night, had plans, had to go do that. Had an event, a social event, so Shane agreed to step in, and I appreciate that. Watched bits and pieces of it. Honestly, I can't stand a whole half hour of Shane, so I kind of skipped through it. But he had some decent stuff in there, so I was glad to see that. You guys seem to interact with him well in the chat room. I appreciate that, and hopefully we can not have too much Shane in the future. Again, I feel terrible. You guys are good people. You don't deserve that, but I wanted there to not be any dead air, trying to get as many of these netcasts in 1 year as I can. I want to be consistent with that, so I had to do that. Trying to trying to figure out the lesser of two evils, and sadly that was Shane. Because of that, because of my denial and my reluctance to admit that Shane had done another one of these, I got the netcast out a little late. Actually, I think I published the blog post earlier this afternoon. But hopefully, I'm on vacation this week. I'm not doing any work stuff, so hopefully I'll be able to get this thing rendered out and up tomorrow. That's my goal. Before I would say close the business tomorrow, but since I'm not doing any business tomorrow, there's really not close business. But before 5 o'clock Central Standard Time in the U.S., I want to have this thing all buttoned up so you guys can enjoy it. So that was it. So another thing I wanted to do is part of the production notes, and this is such a stupid little thing, but it'll be fun just the same. I got a lot of lights in this room. I got some harsh lights. I got some, and I'm trying some LED lights over here. The bad news with LED lights is they cost like $50,000 per light, and I've got 4 lights in this room. I've got compact fluorescent. Some of the lighting gets harsh in here, and then I've got these lights to kind of give some depth to the studio and all that, but the lights coming down from the top are kind of harsh, and one of the things that comes from harsh lighting is a very shiny forehead on yours truly. Don't have as much hair as I had when I was a younger man, and the less hair I have, the more shiny forehead I have. And this has come up a couple of times in the chat room. The hooligans were kind enough to point it out to me. Thanks, guys. And it's come up on video calls, too. People have made cracks about it. So thanks for all that, really. It helps the self-esteem a lot. I appreciate that. Anyway, when I was at Rackspace last week, I was recording some video for some marketing stuff that they're doing. And the guy that was recording it used to be a Rackspace employee. He's now often doing other things, but he came back to help us with this video stuff, a guy named Justin King. He's out on Twitter at Justin King. He does a bunch of SEC football videos, some really great stuff. The guy is incredibly talented when it comes to video and marketing and things like that. Before I sat down, and I posted a picture on Facebook because he's got all these fancy lights now and fancy cameras. So here I am in a chair with my script with all the questions he's going to ask me and all that, and getting all ready. So before we go on air, oh, I should have kept it. He hands me a little thing like the size of a 3x5 business card, but it's blue. He's like, "Here's this." I'm like, "What? What is this?" It feels kind of weird. So it's oil-absorbing sheets. So, in the old days, well, I guess probably not even in the old days, but in the regular days of broadcasting, broadcasters would have to, get makeup and powder to get the shine off of their skin, the oil off of their skin. So instead of doing that, Justin buys these oil-absorbing sheets at Walmart or Walgreens or CVS or whatever to get makeup and stuff off, and that's what he has people that go on camera use. And I'm like, that is brilliant. So I bought some of these, so I tried them out. So hopefully tonight's Netcast will have less shine to it, or maybe more shine. Anyway, less forehead shine for sure. But I thought I would try these out because they were pretty cheap. I thought I'd give them a shot. But that's the kind of dedication I put into this for you guys. I go head first into my criticisms, namely your forehead's too damn shiny, and try to find solutions. And so thanks. I was going to start wearing a hat. That's why I wore my Santa hat last year. Had it pulled down, or last 2 weeks ago, had it pulled down to my eyebrows to cover up my shiny forehead. But thanks to Justin for that. And if any of you guys other guys, I know Jack does some podcasting, these things, they don't hurt. We'll try them out. So, okay, moving on to topics. We have a lot of topics this week. I've actually have 2 weeks worth of topics because Shane didn't use any of my topics last week. So there's going to be some old, some new. Might not get through them all this week. We'll see. The good news is I'm not working. Well, yeah, the good news is I'm not working this week, and so I probably wouldn't have come up with as many things. So this will help for next week's Netcast because I won't have been working and playing with things. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was Ignite. Ignite is the conference in May that Microsoft's putting on. They've taken Tech Ed and SharePoint conference and Mac and all these conferences and bundled them all into one gigantic, huge conference, and it's Microsoft Ignite. And it is in Chicago in May 4th through the 8th, I believe. They've already started sending out requests for topics if you'd like to see there, so you can go out to the Ignite site and tell them what you'd like to hear about. And they've been sending mailers out. And for whatever reason, I'm not on the mailing list, whatever it is, but last week they sent out a mailer, had all the stuff, and then at the bottom they had some marketing stuff, and it was me, and it was a quote from me and a picture of me, which is pretty crazy. So I posted a link in the chat room there of the picture, and I'll have it in the show notes below here. But that was kind of cool. So I was part of a preview. They invited 20 of us to come to Chicago, check out the venue, and the Microsoft folks talked to us about what they're planning on doing for the conference. They took a lot of feedback from us. They listened to a lot of things we said, which was pretty cool. And then they shot some pictures of us at the end for marketing collateral like this one. So it was interesting to see that actually show up. Laura Rogers, she's in the chat room. She was part of that as well. Naomi Moneypenny. So I can only assume that they will be showing up in later mailings with that as well. But it was one of those things where one of the guys that was from Microsoft, he was like, hey, Todd, why don't you come up to my room? I got a penthouse up here. I got some stuff I want to show you. I'm like, oh, not this again. Why does this always happen to me? And then it was the photo shoot for the marketing. There was a whole bunch of people there. I was all very embarrassed. Anyway, so that was kind of cool. I don't know that I've seen anything like that before. That was kind of fun. So thanks to all the folks. I got a bunch of folks on Twitter that hit me up on that and Facebook, and that was a good time. So I'm looking forward to Ignite here in a few months. Okay, next topic. This was something I got in an email, and I forgot to clear it with the person who sent the email to me, so I don't want to say their name because some people get embarrassed. I had that happen once. I embarrassed somebody by mentioning that they asked me a question. So I apologize to the person who sent this to me if you were looking for some internet notoriety, because I forgot to ask you for your okay. But they sent me an email, and they said, hey, I changed the SMTP settings for outgoing email in Central Admin, except SharePoint keeps sending out the email through my old SMTP server. Please, Todd, help me. Please, Todd, help. Roughly. I'm paraphrasing, but roughly. And he sent it to me while I was traveling last week, so I was kind of distracted and didn't pay a lot of attention to it. But the first thing that came to mind was web app settings. So we're all familiar. Well, I guess the other thing that he had said, and again, this is not a dumb question, which I hate because dumb questions are super easy to answer, that he had changed the setting in Central Admin. He knew where that was. And the way that he was determining that the old setting was still being used was he was actually monitoring the network traffic with Netmon. I mean, he was down at the network layer at this point testing things. So not a dumb guy, all that. But the first thing that came to mind was the web app settings. So there's a setting for the farm for outgoing SMTP server and from address and all that kind of stuff. But then on top of that, each web app can additionally have its own outgoing SMTP settings. And that's what had happened to him. Somebody had gone in and changed the settings for a particular web app. He didn't know that. He changed it at the farm, thought everything was good, but then the web app was using its own old settings. So as soon as I said that to him, he's like, oh my God, right. And then he went in, and sure enough, that web app had the old settings. He just deleted them, I think. I don't remember. Or put a new one in, either way. And then email started going out. So I thought I would mention that one because that's something we don't often play with because we only need the setting in one spot. So we set it for the farm, and then we just forget about it. But somehow somebody had changed that one on him, and he didn't know about it. So I thought I'd just mention that one just so people can know to look there. All right, another topic is last week while I was gone, because that seems to be the thing. So on the, let's see, tomorrow's the 16th. So don't tell me this one, I know this one. On December 9th, the second Tuesday of December, it was Patch Tuesday, everybody's favorite Tuesday of the month, when Microsoft goes and breaks every product that they currently have under support. So this was a great one. I don't have a list of all of them, but there was at least one patch for Windows 10 that broke some stuff, maybe one for Windows 8. One of the patches got pulled for sure, OS patches. Just a fun time for everybody involved. And our friends SharePoint 2010 and SharePoint 2013 and Office Web Apps, they were not left out of the Patch Tuesday fun. So SharePoint 2010 is now at build number, get your pens ready, 14.0.7140.5000. And SharePoint 2013 is at 15.0.4675.1000. And then the Office Web Apps for 2013 are also at that same build level. Everybody got revved on that one. Haven't seen much on either of the SharePoint patches. I haven't seen any problems. Haven't heard any reports or any of that kind of stuff. So I have a good feeling. Hopefully those worked out pretty well. One thing, if you want to keep up to date on all these, of course, you can go to toddklindt.com/SP2013 builds for the SharePoint 2013 builds, toddklindt.com/SP2010 builds for the 2010 builds, and if you need up to the minute, just as fast as I've got it out there, information, you could follow me on Twitter at SP2013 patches and at SP2010 patches. And as soon as I make any changes to any patch pages for either SharePoint 2010 or 2013, I tweet that out with links so that you can follow along. Again, so far, so good. Haven't heard any huge problems. This month being an even month, I guess this is kind of out of rotation, but this month we did get full installs for both of these patches, I believe. Let me check. Yeah. So 2013, we got the full file, which I guess now is 3 files for SharePoint Server, but we didn't get just the MSPs. We got the actual patch file, and same for SharePoint 2010. So that's good. Makes it a little easier to install. They were able to get everything buttoned up. So as always, if you have any problems with these patches, installing them, whatever, shoot me an email. You can hit me up at todd.klindt@rackspace.com or at toddklindt on Twitter. And I would love to hear what experience you have. If you've had a problem with one of these things, let me know. And if I can reproduce it or whatever, I'll put it up on my wiki. And dozens of SharePoint administrators will appreciate that when they go and look at individual patches to see what's going on. So appreciate all the folks helping me with that. I always have a bunch of folks that do that. So this is also a great time, and Brian LaLancette, who is the author of AutoSP Installer, go to autospinstaller.com, and that is a great PowerShell script that will automatically install SharePoint on one or more servers. You give it a nice big fat XML file, and it does all your settings and all that for you. Brian made all that up. That's all him. He's in the chat room right now, so shout out to Brian. He was just lamenting on Twitter before I went on the air that one of the Patch Tuesday patches, KB2899582, eked out onto one server in one of his farms, and it patches SharePoint. It patches some lexicon files inside of SharePoint. And so now his farm is not, solid because one server has this patch and the rest don't. They got to stop doing that. I hate when they do that. But that is a great a reminder that you should not let Windows updates install automatically on your SharePoint servers. You should use WSUS, which is a place where you can have a server that downloads all the patches, then you approve them, and then they go out to the servers that are pointed there. That gives you some control. Or you should have, if you're going to go out to the regular Windows update, have your server set to download but not install so that you can individually look through each one of these patches. But Microsoft has just made a holy mess of this the last few months. If you're not careful, you get these patches that eke out and touch SharePoint, put it in a partially upgraded status, and you can't uninstall these patches usually. So then you got to put it on all the servers. You got to run psconfig. It's just a hell of a mess. So sorry that bit Brian. Brian's a smart guy. So if it's going to bite him, and it's bit me all the time, but I'm not a smart guy, so that's not a huge deal. But when it's biting guys like Brian, you know that it's a big deal. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure all your SharePoint servers are set to download and not install automatically, so you can keep an eye out on those. Sorry about that. Again, nursing a cold or trying to keep my instrument hydrated and all that. So 2 weeks ago, when I started the notes for this netcast, for whatever reason, I put a link into the article I wrote for SharePoint Pro Mag last year, SharePointProMag.com, about installing SQL Server for SharePoint 2013. I think I had some coworkers had some questions about that, and that just reminded me it was time to talk about that again. But this is a 3-part article series that I wrote for SharePoint Pro Mag that talks about how to install and configure SQL Server 2012 for SharePoint Server. And not only do I explain it all and give you all the scripts that I used, but I also made videos that accompany it, so you can actually watch me install these things and configure them the way that I want and all of that, and narrate it at the same time. So it was really kind of a cool deal that they let me do that. But I did that last year. I think over my Christmas break last year. But it's every bit as fresh and poignant now as it was a year ago when I wrote it, and probably a year and a half ago when I pitched it to them, because I was terrible about getting articles to those guys. But that is out there. So if you just want to run through that, there's some scripts in there that I use that automatically set, the DB created and the security admin. Automatically set max stop. I've got a script that does all that. Kind of handy. A lot of folks have gotten a lot from that, so you can go out and check that out. Leave them some comments. Tell them how great it is, so that they'll let me write more stuff if I want to. Okay, so another big thing. This is also a couple of weeks old that I was going to mention. Was a bunch of us, especially a bunch of these hooligans in the chat room. We're all nerdy folks. We all like to play with things with bells and whistles and all that kind of stuff. So a bunch of us have been playing with the Windows 10 preview for a couple of months now. I actually need to reinstall it. I got a new machine and didn't get it installed on that one yet, but I had been using it for a while. As a public beta, so you can go out to, I think, preview.windows.com, I think is the URL. It's kind of off the top of my head. Should have had that in my notes. But you can download the Windows 10 beta, or they call it a preview now, and get that going. It's a great upgrade to Windows 8.1. Honestly, I think Windows 8.1 is pretty good. Windows 8 was horrible. I wouldn't touch it with an 8-foot pole. Windows 8.1, pretty usable. Got it running everywhere. Love it. Windows 10 is a nice evolution on that. So it does the thing where it adds the start menu back, a bunch of other things. Good stuff. Now, one thing that they've done differently with this preview over other previews for like Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 is you can upgrade the previews through Windows Update, which is super cool. Before, the expectation was always that when a new preview came out, a new build came out, you'd have to wipe your machine and reinstall it. And that's just, when you're beta testing software and previewing software, that's part of the deal. But with Windows 10, that's not part of the deal anymore. You can upgrade your preview from one preview to the next preview, and as if that wasn't cool enough, you actually get to control how frequently that happens. So the inside of Windows Update now, they've got these fast rings and slow rings, or a fast ring and a slow ring, where you get to pick how new your patches are, how quickly you get new patches. If you have a machine that you're okay with, getting stuff on, you can put yourself in the fast ring, and then as soon as a new patch comes out for Windows 10, you get it right away. And it might blow something up, it might not, but you get it right away. If you've got machines that are a little more, like you're using it for your daily driver, even though you're not supposed to, but you want your patches to be a little more well-baked, you can put yourself in slow ring, and then you get patches a couple weeks later when they've been tested. So that's super cool. That is awesome. I wish Windows Update itself had something like that. But that's one thing that they've added, and I took great advantage of that. But as if that wasn't cool enough, a couple of weeks ago, Gabriel All, I think his name is, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, the program manager at Microsoft who's running Windows 10, tweeted that their expectation now is that you will be able to upgrade a Windows 10 preview box to Windows 10 RTM. How cool is that? So you'll be able to use your preview now and keep updating it as the previews come out, and then when RTM comes out, you can keep using it. You don't have to reinstall everything. Now, not that reinstalling is a big deal anymore with all of our settings being in OneDrive and that kind of stuff, but that is super cool that they put that out there. Now, you're not going to be able to upgrade for free. At least they haven't said anything about that. But you won't have to reinstall everything. I assume you'll have to pay for a code or something like that. And but that's really cool that they're doing that. Their patching has come a long way. So that's a lot of fun. Again, I got this new laptop that I've got to get Windows 10 back on. They released a new build last week that had some rough spots of Windows 10, and so I'm kind of holding off on that. And they've been really transparent about this. So they put out a new build of Windows 10, and it had a fairly significant issue, and I can't remember what the issue was. But they released a patch for the issue, but the patch would not install if you had Office 2013 installed on the box. And this Gabriel All put out a tweet, and he's like, listen, folks, we screwed up. We got a patch for this screw up, but we screwed that up too. We found out that you couldn't install this if you have Office installed, and we thought getting this patch out quickly was more important than getting it out correctly. So for now, if you want the patch, you have to uninstall Office, and we're super sorry about that. And that was, of course, frustrating as all hell if you had Office installed, and everybody does, right? I mean, that's what everybody's using. But it was cool that he came forward about it, was open about it. I had a fair amount of contrition with that. He was very apologetic and said, hey, we're working on it, we'll get it fixed, but the patch is out now. It's not going to install. You'll have to uninstall Office first and then reinstall it after the patch is done. It's fine. So that was cool. But when those things started going on, I'm like, maybe I'm holding back on the Windows 10 thing for a little bit. Give them another week or two to get this sorted out. Another good thing to do on my Christmas vacation here. But I will be putting that on my my new machine at some point. So in the chat room, Naomi is asking about what his Twitter handle is. I believe it is at Gabe All, AUL. Somebody in the chat room, sadly with the lag, it's going to be about 7 minutes from now, but somebody will correct that for me, and I will put it in the show notes, and I'll put it in the lower third and all that. If you're playing with Windows 10, he's a good guy to follow because he's got some good stuff. Mark Christman, who is always a gigantic pain in the butt in the chat room, is asking, so folks running OpenOffice should be okay? Probably so, though I don't know if anybody is running Windows 10 is running OpenOffice or LibreOffice or whatever all the alternatives are. But yes, I assume you're fine. I've not found anybody else that's tried it first to let me know for sure. But the Windows 10 stuff is really cool. They're just you can kind of see where they're going. It's got the virtual desktops and all that. It's been a good time. I've had a lot of fun with it. Okay, so talking about some other betas and things that are out. A couple of months ago, and I don't remember exactly when it was, Microsoft released a private beta for a thing called Office Sway. First, let me say that I'm not sure what the hell Office Sway really is. I didn't sign up for the beta. I wasn't accepted for it. It's kind of a PowerPoint replacement, but kind of not. It's kind of a way to make web presentations, but not boring, static, web presentations like PowerPoint and that kind of thing. And it lets you take pictures from OneDrive and all these kind of things and puts them together. And instead of going, one by one by one, you get the sliding thing that you can do, and it's kind of cool. I haven't really done much with it. It's very webby, and that's cool. I've seen some people do some stuff with it. I think it's kind of the way things are going, but I haven't played with it much. Anyway, that is now generally available, so you can go out and request an invite for that. I believe you go to sway.com is the link for that, and you can sign up for it. I say that having not actually done it myself, because again, I'm not really working much, but but that's one of those things that's out there. As a presenter, probably something I'm going to have to play with a little bit and engage to that. But if you're one of those folks that wants to try it, you can go to sway.com and see what it's like. Thought I'd mention that. Another thing that was talked about before and now is apparently out, though I didn't see it, is the real-time translator for Skype. And let me just tell you that this is something flat out of science fiction. And I think I talked about this in whatever Netcast we were at after the announcement. But Microsoft several months ago announced and demonstrated the software in Skype that does real-time language translation. And the example they gave was they had an individual who spoke English. And I'm not entirely sure if English was, so I'm from the Midwest, so it sounds like everybody's got an accent, but he had an accent, a noticeable accent, and he was Skyping, video Skype, with someone speaking German. And it was crazy cool what was happening. So in his native tongue, he was talking to her. On her end, she was hearing him in her native tongue. And then there was text on the bottom of his screen. Let me see if I get the right. Text on the bottom of his screen that said what the translation was, and text on the bottom of her screen that said what the original translation was, or something like that. But it was insane. And they were doing things. They were doing things like giving addresses, so there was proper nouns and things like that. It wasn't exactly accurate. You could tell there were a few things that were off. But still amazing. So if any of you guys have read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it was a trilogy with 4 or 5 books from Douglas Adams back from the 80s. Hysterical. You can't miss it. It's great stuff, great geek humor. But in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, all the aliens had a thing in their ear called a babblefish, which did real-life translation. So when the main protagonist, Ford Prefect, when he got on the ship, he went the babel fish in his ear, and then he could understand everybody. It works like that on Skype. Real-time translation, again, just amazing stuff. But anyway, they when they announced this several months ago, they put up a sign-up for people who wanted to preview it. So you told them who you were, what languages you wanted, things like that, and they told you they'd get a hold of you when it was ready. So apparently, people are getting that thing, and they're getting that. I have not gotten it, so I signed up for the preview, and I'll put the link that you can use to sign up for the preview. But apparently some folks have been getting that, and so I anxiously await that. Fortunately, I know people all over the world who speak all kinds of languages, so if I get invited to that, I'll just start pestering people, start calling them and seeing how well it works. But if anybody out there gets an invite to this, I would love to hear how it's going for you, and because that's just crazy technology right there. I can't believe that actually works and actually exists. All right. So another thing, this one's way less exciting, and I just read about this. This is another thing that I haven't tried yet today, but I read about this on The Verge, and it's about an app called Gestures for Windows Phone. And I will link to all this in the chat room. You can install it. It's in the store. It's a beta. But it gives your phone functionality where you don't need to touch it to control it. So this idea, like if your phone is ringing, you can just pick it up and hold it to your face and answer it. You don't have to put your code in and hit answer. Or if your phone's ringing and you don't want to answer it, you just turn it over to ignore the call. Or if you're on the phone and you're talking to someone and you want to put on speakerphone, you just set it on the counter. things like that. There's a bunch of these gestures built in. I have not tried it yet. I'll probably install it after the show tonight. But that looked pretty cool. So I'd be curious what if any of you other Windows Phone users, if you've tried it, or what it's like. But that's good stuff out there. All right. So we got a couple more things. Since my voice is not holding up very well, I'm probably going to skip a couple of these for this week. Like that one, that'll go to next week. One thing I just wanted to touch on a little bit because of my affinity right there. There was some announcements last week and this week about new Microsoft products that are going into the Australian data centers. So Microsoft obviously has some data centers in Australia, kind of a big market down there with all the Australians down there. And so, as they light up data centers, different functionality exists here and there and the other places. And Australia, here within the last couple of weeks, have gotten some new Office 365 functionality, dynamic CRM, that kind of stuff. And that's interesting because having been to Australia a couple times, the internet and the cloud is handled a little differently down there. Data is metered more religiously than it is here in the U.S. Data is more expensive. But that being said, they've embraced the cloud a lot more. The cloud is a bigger thing, at least it feels like it is there than it is here. So this is a good thing, gets that down in that Sydney data center for those guys, and they can do some of that online stuff. So, and I know we've got at least one Australian in the chat room right now, so shout out to John. And last time I was in Australia, John was kind enough to take me around, show me the places. I think we had lunch a couple of times. He spoke at the conference I was at down there. So shout out to him. But that stuff's just going all over, and it's cool that it's getting out there. So I wanted to give that a shout out. Okay, so I've got not so much a thing to talk about, but a thing to tell you that I'm going to talk about. Throughout the last year and a half or so, I've been talking about other things. I've obviously talked about Windows 10 earlier in this particular episode, but I've been talking a lot about Windows 8 and some of the devices and things that are out there. You guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about my Dell Venue Pro 8 tablet, which is still my favorite little buddy right here. Got him. As you can tell, I've been busy today. This vacation stuff is killing me. Been playing solitaire challenges. I don't know if you guys have played this or not, but Microsoft has a solitaire thing that you can play, and every day it's got 5 different kind of puzzles, and you can tell. Let me show you how much how productive I've been on my vacation now. So every day there's 5 challenges, and if you get all 5 of them, your day is green, and then if you get less than 5, it's blue. So there we go. And I got my window partially obstructed here. So out of the 15 days of this month, 11 of them, I've done all of the challenges, got them all. So that's what I use my tablet for. But anyway, this little guy, this little 8-inch guy has been my constant companion for several months now. Touch screen, 2 gig of RAM, just been a lot of fun. But one of the things that Microsoft did with Windows 8.1 was they kind of relaxed the hardware requirements of what Windows needs, which was something they didn't do with Windows 8, and I think that had a lot to do with why it wasn't adopted as well, because it had to have these high-end machines to run it. So I talked a while back about this, which is the Toshiba Encore Mini. This is a 7-inch tablet. This thing right here, whose battery is dead because I haven't had it on the charger. This is a 7-inch tablet, runs full Windows 8.1, all that kind of stuff. This little guy was $100, less than $100, $99. And I couldn't believe it. There was a full version of Windows, 32-bit, but full version of Windows, not the RT stuff. Run of Windows 8 for $100. Yeah, and Lori mentions in the chat room that as part of the 12 days of Christmas, this thing got down to $80 in the Microsoft Store. It's amazing. Amazing that these things are this cheap with full versions of Windows. But for a $100 tablet, you give up a little bit. And for this one, you give up screen. The screen on this thing is kind of crap, and you can't really tell. I think the video that you're watching of me that's streamed and recorded is probably even crappier than the screen on this thing, but it's just not as bright and it's not as shiny, and the resolution is weird too. It's some crazy resolution that before this device came out, Windows 8.1 didn't even support this resolution. So this thing is running 1280 by 768. And like the spec for Windows 8.1, you had to run 1200 by 900 or something. So I mean, it's just a weird thing. But it was $100. So right, I'm willing to put up with that for $100. It has an Atom processor. It's got 1 gig of RAM. It's got 16 gig of storage, which is insane. But again, Microsoft, to make these things work, they're doing the WinBoot thing, so the drive is compressed. Just crazy technology. $100. But then some of these other Windows tablets started to come out that were $100. Pretty soon everybody's making $100 Windows tablets. And that's what my next new toy is. So this is the Insignia, which is Best Buy's house brand. This is called the Insignia Flex 8. This is an 8-inch tablet as opposed to the Toshiba, which is 7 inches. So that would be one more. It's an 8-inch tablet. It's 1280 by 800 as opposed to 1280 by 768, which is 32 more. Same 1 gig of RAM, same 16 gig of storage, but this one comes with a 16 gig micro SD card on top of that, so that's kind of cool. It's got charged with micro SD. It's got the same Atom processor, the Z3735F, which you're seeing in all these little things. And it seems to support the Miracast thing, and it also has a mini HD hardware jack on it. And it comes with a year of Office 365 Personal, which all these things do. This thing, $99. So the reason I haven't opened it yet is I'm going to record an unboxing video for this one, like I did with the Encore. So I didn't want to get it out and spoil all that. But I'll probably record that tomorrow. But I played with one of these at Best Buy. So imagine my surprise when I went to Best Buy and they had Windows tablets out, and it was charged, and it actually worked. I was shocked and amazed. And the screen on it is really good. It's way better than the Encore, and it's the responsiveness was fine. I mean, I played with it a little bit. Got on Best Buy's network, brought up some web pages, things like that. Went pretty well. I mean, it was a good little thing. So I will probably be retiring this thing. I don't know what I'll do. Maybe I'll give this away as a souvenir to somebody to a viewer on the Netcast. I haven't given anything away in a while. Not that I don't like giving stuff away, I honestly do, but it's kind of a pain shipping and all that kind of stuff. So, in the chat room, they're asking how many tablets I need. I think the answer is all of them. I think. I mean, I haven't really counted, but I think one of each. That seems reasonable. No, in all honesty, I've got. I know this makes it sound like I've got a problem. Besides the Dell and the Insignia and the Toshiba and the Surface that I use as my daily driver, funny you should say that, John, I have an older Acer tablet that I have in the bathroom. So John Lou in the chat room said when I wake up and look in the mirror, that mirror should be a tablet. Yeah, that probably could be. So the tablet that I have in my bathroom, it sounds way creepier and grosser than it really is, but I just have, it's like my dashboard for the day in there. So I've got a shower speaker, a Bluetooth shower speaker that's hooked up to that. So I've got my Xbox Music on there, so I can play music on there. CBS has a great new app, CBSN, I believe it's called, that is live news. So a lot of times I'll do that when I'm brushing my teeth or whatever. I'll put that on, and it's like video snippets from stuff that's happened in the last couple of days, and I'll listen to that. I don't have that start screen syncing with all of the other machines that I have. So it's got a special start screen. It's got a big weather widget so I can see what's going on. It's got a big email widget, a big mail widget. I mean, it's got stuff specifically for, hey, what's going on today? Oh, I got that appointment at 10 or whatever. So that's what I use that for, and it's really handy to just have that there when I'm getting ready in the morning. Granted, I use it for about 10 minutes a day. So, but that one is an older processor, and that one is super slow. So I'm guessing one of these will replace that. But it's pretty nice. John Liu, who is way better at justifying these tablets than I do, or better at it than I am, he says he thinks that I need 2 tablets so that I can see if my shirt's properly tucked in. So that's just another great use for it, honestly. And so, I put this tablet in my bathroom because, again, I was trying to justify these purchases and thought it'd be kind of cool to have my email and music and all that kind of stuff in there, and had completely forgotten that tablet has a camera, or 2 cameras, I guess, and had just never even thought about the fact that I've got a tablet with a camera hanging out in my bathroom, which is, again, kind of gross, but haven't ever used it for any of that. And so Jeff Jones in the chat room is saying that I should have 2 tablets and they could Skype each other, so I could. You guys have thought about me and my tablets in the bathroom way more than I have. I'm flattered, honest I am, gentlemen. I appreciate the attention. But again, so also in the chat room, who was it? Brian Lalancette said he bought a Venue 8 Pro for his folks in Florida based on this review, and I'm telling you, these little tablets are just handy as hell. And when I got this Dell Venue 8 Pro, it only had 2 gig of RAM in it, and I'm like, man, you're not going to do anything with 2 gig of RAM. Turns out you can do everything you want to on an 8-inch screen with 2 gig of RAM. I run mostly Metro apps on it, and it's fine. Windows does a tremendous job of handling 2 gig of RAM and a really slow processor. But then I got this first device here with 1 gig of RAM, and I'm like, I just don't know that I believe that Windows can handle that. And it can. It can handle 1 gig of RAM. Now, that's all a function of the fact that it's a small screen and you don't do much. You don't do many things at a time or anything like that. But 1 gig of RAM is perfectly usable for a device this size. You can look at web pages, you can look at the weather, you can check your stocks and things like that. It's more than enough. So I've been pleasantly surprised with how well that's all worked. So if you're thinking about getting one of these, there's a bunch of $99 options. Again, there's this Insignia Flex 8. The HP Stream 7 is another tablet that is like $100, and a great way to just kind of play with it. One thing that I've discovered is I've come to terms with Windows 8.1. I use it all the time. It's my daily driver. I've got it installed everywhere. But part of me really embracing Windows was trying it on a touchscreen device. Now, I don't use it every day on a touchscreen device because I don't have, big 24-inch touchscreens and all that kind of stuff. But after having used it on a touchscreen, I sort of understand it a little bit better, and I sort of don't mind it. And so that's something to consider. If you I think you'll like Windows 8 a lot, 8.1 a lot more, and if you again, $99. And the other thing again is that they all of these come with Office 365 Professional Edition for a year, and that costs you $70. So if you're thinking about getting Office 365 anyway, that was going to cost you $70, $30 more to get the tablet, and that gets you all the Office apps and unlimited OneDrive and all that kind of stuff for a year. So just a great time. In the chat room earlier, somebody mentioned how long will it be till they start paying us to take these laptops or these tablets. Not long, I don't think. We're getting pretty close, I think. But again, I'll make an unboxing video for that tomorrow. So you'll find that on my regular YouTube channel at youtube.com/Todd Klindt Netcast. Jeff Jones is waxing poetically in the chat room. Mirror tablet on the wall. Who's the nerdiest of them all? Well, I think in this house I've got it sewed up pretty tightly, but so that's good. And if you've got any questions about trying stuff on tablets, if you're curious about it, shoot me an email, leave me a comment on YouTube or whatever. I've had some people say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? That's been kind of cool. But it's fun stuff, fun stuff. And Brian also mentioned the dock for the Dell Venue 8 Pro. So this is a dock that is a dock, but it also charges because these devices charge via USB. And so you get this issue where you can't charge and hook up USB devices at the same time. So this dock I bought, from a Kickstarter project, but you can get it on Amazon. And I've got a link for that in the show notes. This dock is $80. It charges your tablet and gives you USB jacks and a DVI jack and a hardwired network jack, and really turns it into a handy little thing. This was $80, well worth it. This was built for the Dell Venue 8 Pro. and hence it's called the Pro 8 dock. It works just fine on the Toshiba as well. It works fine on the HP Stream 7, and tomorrow after I unbox this Insignia, I will try that, but I guess it will work just fine for that as well. So that allows you to make a cheap little desktop machine. Now, I will warn you, once you hook a large monitor up to one of these little tablets, you will start getting frustrated with the performance because your expectations will change. You'll start trying to run more applications and things like that. It'll get slow pretty quick, but the option is there. Works pretty well. So, and I will put a link to that in my chat room for all that. So that was that's my next new toy. You'll probably hear all about that next week. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was my annual birthday charity drive. Again, this is something that's been going on for almost as long as my Netcast has been going on. And what it is every year around my birthday, my Netcast viewers, my hooligans, and all that kind of stuff, they get together, and to make me feel good about myself, they donate a bunch of money to charity. And there's already a big drive. Lori Gowan's been pushing a drive for a couple of months on that, getting that together. And they're doing it again, and it's firing up. She's been sending out emails, getting people all fired up. If you would like to be involved with that, first off, thank you so very much. I do appreciate that. It means a lot to me that you guys think of me that way. And if you would like to sign up for that, you can go to pointgowan.com/TKCharity. And that is point and then Lori's last name, GOWIN.com/TKCharity. And again, this is nothing, I support it, but it's nothing that I've done. I'm not the force behind it. It's all grassroots, all you guys. But honestly, I don't care where you donate or what you donate to. I don't have a pet charity that I'm trying to drum up funds for or anything. It's just something that I have done for a while. This Netcast started in 2009, and in 2009, things were tough for a lot of folks. But things were not so tough for me, and I felt that if I could help some folks out, I wanted to help some folks out. And so that was kind of why I started talking about charity. I'd done charity before that. But this is why I started talking about it, because the audience for this Netcast, I think, is probably folks that were not as impacted as much by the big recession and all that as other folks were. So that was kind of why I talked about it. I've kind of toned that down a little bit because I don't want to get preachy. That gets old. I know how that gets. So I haven't talked about it much. Still something I do a lot. But that was kind of how this all started. And then Lori's taken the ball and ran with it. And Dan Usher's the other one. He kind of started that out. So thanks to them. But if you'd like to get involved, go ahead and sign up for that, and Lori will hook you up. All right. Well, I think that is about all that my voice will be able to handle for tonight. Well, we got to do some shameless self-promotion. One of my favorite parts of the show. So here in a couple of months, I will be in Austin, Texas at SPTechCon. You can go to sptechcon.com and find out all about that. I believe my sidekick Shane and I, we're doing like 4 sessions. I think we're doing maybe a PowerShell session and like a troubleshooting session and maybe some upgrade. I don't know. Those guys let us talk about anything. So this will be like Shane and I's 15th SPTechCon, I believe. They have 2 a year. I think this is the 8th year. That, again, February 8th through the 11th. Go to sptechcon.com and find out about that. And then 2 months after that, I will be in London, England, beautiful, sunny, idyllic London, England, for the SharePoint Evolutions Conference. That's Steve Smith's baby. Steve puts on a tremendous show every year. I've heard nothing but stellar things about that show. I've never been over before. Been busy, all that kind of stuff, and I saw Steve a couple of months ago in Stockholm, and I'm like, hey, if you need somebody to like sweep up afterwards, or maybe get the speaker's coffee or whatever, I would just love to be involved in any way, shape, or form. And he gave me a couple sessions, so I will be doing upgrade sessions. I'll be doing 2 of them. Upgrade's kind of a big topic. I could probably do a couple of days on it, but he has graciously given me 2 slots for upgrade. So I'll be talking about upgrading from SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint 2013 and doing a bunch of demos and answering a bunch of questions and just generally helping people, as many people get out of SharePoint 2010 as I can in a couple hours. So if you're going to be over at the SharePoint Evolutions Conference, or if you're going to be at SPTechCon, for goodness sakes, either one, come find me, tap me on the shoulder. I'm a hell of a friendly guy in person. So come up and say, hey, let me know that you're a viewer, and I'd love to chat. I've had every conference, I extend that invitation, and every time 2 or 3 people come up and talk to me, and I don't think any of them have ever regretted it. You know, I've never. It's just a good time. I'm a friendly guy, so come up and say hey. But I'm super excited about being over there. I'm a little nervous because that's kind of a big deal, and I hope that I'm up to his standards, I guess. Well, thanks to Steve for that, and thanks for the folks at SPTechCon. So coming up on 50 minutes here, so time for me to wrap this up. Chat room, you guys stick around for a while. I will be hanging out with you for a little bit. But thanks, everybody. As always, you can get a hold of me, todd.klindt@rexbase.com, or on Twitter, @ToddKlindt. If you've got any ideas for topics I should cover, topics I shouldn't cover, whether my forehead is still shiny or not, whatever you want to talk about, hit me up, and I would love to hear about it. But until next week, I will see you then.